Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm Ross from Harnham. We're the global leaders in data and AI talent solutions. And today I'm joined by Patrick. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. We're going to talk today about a new approach to data governance and MDM to enable AI success. But before we go into that, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about your background and how we got into data. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor. So how I got into data? Yeah, well, how does someone get into data? So a bit of my background, taking away all the school and stuff. I started out at Ernst & Young about it's 20 years ago. Of course, as a junior IT auditor, spent about 10 years at EY, of which I serviced Shell for 8.5 years.
Okay.
And then I joined Nutreco. That's about 10 years ago. First as IT audit manager. So I've been in IT audit for 5 years, partially responsible for basically all the IT audits that were being performed globally. And then as one of my last assignments, I wanted to look at data governance, master data governance to be precise. And that through all kinds of conversations led into a new role, which I'm now having, because they asked me to clean up the shit that I found. So that's how I got into data. Of course, in my education, I did a lot of data as well, but it's too long ago to mention that.
And what is your role now, and what are your responsibilities?
So my role now is I'm Director One Data. So within Nutreco, we've got a global data organization, which is basically my department. And in that department, I'm responsible for a lot of things regarding data. So that is data strategy, data policy, data literacy. But more operational, global master data management, metadata management, advanced data management, business intelligence, data sharing platform, definition management. We're looking into process mining, a bit of AI, and I can go on. But most important to mention is I'm not accountable for data quality.
Okay.
Which is a whole other conversation to have from a governance perspective. But this is, of course, I am responsible to support and facilitate improving data quality. But in the end, in my view, data quality is really someone in the business who should be owning data quality.
Okay.
So taking ownership is a business responsibility.
Wow, a lot to keep you busy
there.
there.
It's a lot that's on my plate, and I've got good professionals around me that support me. But
Great.
It's a journey and an interesting one.
Great.
Yeah.
And we had, I think it was around 18 months ago, obviously the AI boom with release,
of course, yeah,
ChatGPT and other tools that do similar things.
Yeah.
Have you noticed an increase in data governance and data management since that?
Well, one of the things that really boosted due to AI is obviously the need for higher data quality. It's still in disguise, but more and more, also on boardroom level, there's going to be a realization that if you want to make use of AI or already data analytics and data science in a good way, data governance is important to make data quality work. And in the end, mostly if you want to reduce the risk of hallucination, which is in AI one of the biggest risks that you can have.
Interesting. Do you think senior executives who aren't necessarily involved in data are aware of those kind of risks? Are they things that
it's because, and that's of AI, and everybody's talking about AI, they are all thinking about solutions that AI can bring. If you go through the journey that there's an understanding of what the potential of AI is, then people like me are going to say, yeah, well, hey, listen, of course you want to make this happen, but that does mean that we have to focus on data quality.
Yeah,
and that is actually an accelerator for data governance.
Yeah, and that's actually been great to see over the last few years, because I think data professionals have known for a long time how important data governance is for successful data or analytics and for businesses to get value from it. But sometimes a difficult topic to generate.
It used to be house in order, and well, that's not really the sexy stuff that board members usually want to see. But now data quality is going to be a strategic aspect. And then eyes are opened. And that's a big change. That's for me at least. That is a big change. That happened over the past 1.5 years.
Definitely, and it's an exciting change as well, because I think from our point of view, we've noticed more roles in data governance coming up, and versus other markets which have, like data science or other skills like data science, data engineering, things like that. Data governance often hasn't been as invested in, and we've definitely noticed a big uptick in the number of roles on the market and the number of roles we've been supporting clients on as well. So that's been really interesting. Based on previous conversations, I understand you've got a new approach to data governance and master data management to help facilitate AI, but also to improve data governance and MDM in general. Is that right?
Well, an approach to governance. So there's an aspect that we really need to mature further in. So, and that's the master data management part, with other parts that I'm also already have in my portfolio. But it used to be separate functions. So the global MDM team, that the traditional one, is they receive requests to create a record or create something, a supplier, customer, an item, and so on. And that's just a one-on-one conversation, someone requesting, and it goes through a process. And that's then either it's rejected or approved, and it goes on and it's been created, which is a very transactional based, very low level type of activity. However, that needs to be brought up to a level that data quality is really going to have is a significant part of that role. So we need to change that approach and have a more homogeneous process end to end with all other functions, and more with the data quality on a global scale in mind. And that needs to also be part of your way of operating, and therefore part of your governance model.
Okay, and just how would you describe the traditional approach to MDM then?
So that's well, what I hear other people said, that's the people in the back of the room that are just making sure that there is grease in the machine, so that the customers are there, the suppliers are there, the items are there, and so on. You've got a lot of master data topics, but it needs to be more interactive with your business function to increase data quality. And that's in the end what we want to achieve with that more operational part of the organization. It's not just a service organization anymore. It needs to mature into a more of a business partnership.
And we speak to businesses all the time that have challenges with getting MDM right, and there's been loads of hires or projects where they've maybe hired a new team to do MDM and it's not worked for a business. What do you think stops the traditional approach from working? So why does that happen to so many organizations?
And I think that a lot of it has to do with the trust in the data. I very often hear, data quality is not good enough. Well, that's always a very strange conversation to have, because based on what? So my response lately has been, well, the data quality is perfect because it's exactly what you have entered into the system. And that most of the people that I speak with, when I get that response, I say that they do not expect that kind of response. But then the conversation starts, because why do you think that the data quality is not correct? And that's the conversation that you actually want.
And is that with business people, so business users and consumers, or is that with data professionals?
That goes all the way through the organization. So the direct data consumers, so the people who are actually making use of data to create sales orders and so on, they are running into issues. And then, data quality is not good.
Yeah.
But why? That I want to understand the why. And that originally, that was not part of global master data management at all.
Yeah.
It was something that came up in management meetings, or it's a rumor that is going around.
Yeah.
And it's just a general feeling of, no, the data is not correct.
Okay. And who would traditionally take ownership of that problem in an organization?
Well, and that's one of the good, probably in my view, the first thing in data governance that you need to address, and that's ownership.
Yeah.
If nobody feels responsible for that, then nobody is probably going to take action. And then the conversation is always around, the data quality is not correct. Who's going to address that?
Yeah.
And then and actually, it's also no one is taking action to debunk that idea that data quality is not correct.
Yeah.
So we need to move on to a model that is actually making use of that conversation and take action on that.
Yeah. Okay. And I think you've got a model right in mind that you think is going to be more effective to solve those kind of
issues. So there are already different functions and in different maturity levels across different organizations, of course. But I think that we have to combine a couple of functions to have a homogeneous process end to end to address the demand for AI. But obviously, not only AI requires good data quality, the normal traditional process also requires us to have sufficient data quality to have a trusted organization, trusted support. I came up with more of a model of information orchestration, and that's not just the people on the back end that try to fix stuff and arrange stuff, be a service provider, but more to become a strategic partner to the business to have that dot on the horizon. What is the data quality that we want to achieve and how to get there?
Okay, so information orchestration isn't a term I've heard before.
Nope.
Can you maybe define it or explain what you mean by that?
So in my view, the information orchestration is making all the data that we have that made consumable through data sets, semantic models, how you want to call them, as information products, and making sure that the data quality is what is expected from the business perspective. So that information is orchestrated in the right way so that the business can effectively consume and make valuable insights out of that information. But it needs to be orchestrated the right way for the consumer to be able to use it in the right way.
Okay. And so at Nutreco, right, you were telling me earlier there's over 10,000 employees, global organization. It's a massive environment. I imagine what you've summed up there in a few sentences is it's a big task.
It's a major challenge. Yeah,
an organization of that size, or even a smaller organization, is still a big challenge. What steps can you take to start tackling that challenge to give people more confidence in the data that they're?
Well, first of all, that's actually the first step which you want to take, and that is basically what does the good quality actually look like? Because if there are no boundaries, then everything is good. So if there is no speed limit, then driving 400 kilometers an hour or miles an hour on the highway, whatever you want. It's not really smart, and it is bound to create accidents. But as long as there's no rule, there's no indication if the quality is not right. So the first thing that you have to do is have that conversation with business functions to say, okay, I understand you have got data, but what does good data quality look like? For instance, how old can a record become? Duplication. What are the rules for duplication? What does this field actually mean? What is there a definition? So if you're talking about sales profit, what is the calculation of sales profit? And if you have a large organization like we have, and you've got around the world different views, then you will probably have difficulties with aggregating all that information for a global dashboard.
Yeah.
So harmonization in setting the definitions and setting the rules, that's the first thing that you need to do.
Okay. And could the standards of data quality be different in different parts of an organization? So
of course, you set out the rules, and then but that's more of the assessment and what you need to do to fix it.
How do you manage it if there's in the same department, if there's a big disagreement on what good data quality is?
The disagreement, you have to have one person in the organization who's got the mandate to say this is good, this is bad.
Okay.
Again, talking about data governance, that's the ownership part.
Yeah.
You need to have someone in the organization that can say this is what we want.
Okay.
And of course, if you look at the data quality globally, you will see that some are doing good, some are doing bad. But you have to set the target on what is the level that you would like to achieve on a global scale.
Yeah. Okay. And is that one person a CDO, or is that
No, let me explain a bit further. So what we have, we've got data council set up. And in each data council, so we've got a procure to pay data council and order to cash data council. And in those data councils, we've got senior leaders who have the mandate to say, this is what we're going to do. This is not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And this is the minimal maturity level that we expect.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so you've defined what data quality is.
Yep.
That sounds like a big job.
Well, don't boil the ocean at once. Eat the elephant bite by bite. This is a very difficult, long journey to go through.
Yeah.
To identify what does data quality look like.
Yeah.
And you take it data element one by one. You're not going to do everything. This is setting out the data quality, and then for the whole organization to go to the next step. That's impossible. You have to find those data elements that are most relevant.
Yeah.
And that's
okay.
And start there.
Okay. So one bit at a time.
Yeah, obviously start with your suppliers, your customers, your items, and then move on to what is most relevant for the organization.
Okay.
And that's also use case driven. What brings the most value to the business?
Yeah.
What is the data that they are going to consume most likely?
Okay. And then say you've done that on a project, or a part of the business where you think you can make a step forward and you've got a comfortable definition of data quality.
Yeah.
Where do you go next?
Yeah. So next is then you're going to in more, and this part was, by the way, what you might call metadata management.
Yeah.
And setting up data contracts and all that stuff. The next step would be more your master data management or your data management, if you want to take more into scope. And that is all the data that is coming in or is being modified. Make sure that new data or that modification is complying with the rules that you have set out.
Yeah.
So if you are able to do that, automate and make sure that the workflows that is supporting that create and modify are actually taking into account the rules that you've set out.
Okay.
So all the data that is coming in, so the inflow, is actually on par with the data quality that you expect.
Okay. Again, that sounds like a big job if there's lots of data flowing through an organization.
Yes. Well, the amount of data, that's one thing, but it is more about how many data quality rules do you want to pass through that check, basically.
Okay. And whose responsibility is that, and who does that kind of work?
So I would say that is a centralized organization, because it's a conversation with your business organization to actually define the rules.
Yeah.
And the business functions provide the rules. The next step is making sure that those rules are applied. That is something that you can do on a centralized level.
Yeah.
Maybe other organizations can do it decentralized, based more on country. That really depends on how your organization looks like and what is most effective.
Yeah.
But it starts with making sure that those rules are complied with. So all the new data is already on par with the data quality that you expect.
Okay.
And that's different.
Yeah.
That is a new way of doing global master data management. It's not having that one-on-one conversations anymore.
Yeah.
But as soon as something comes in that does not comply with the rules,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a new rule, then you have that conversation with your business again. Hey, we see this is happening. Why is this happening? Is this correct? Is this incorrect? Should we approve it? Should we reject it?
Mm.
And then you have a conversation that is more sustainable.
Yeah. Okay. And what challenges are involved in that step? And
Well,
where
if you start with that,
Yeah.
setting out the rules, then you are going to get into the harmonization part.
Yeah.
As already said, if you ask different people what is your opinion on this in different parts of the world,
Yeah.
they will all have their own opinion.
Yeah.
And it is the conversation to say, okay, what's right, what's wrong. That's the most difficult part, the harmonization of the data rules.
Yeah. Okay. And then once that's done,
Yep.
the next step is
well, introduce that into your automation, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you still have to do it manual, then you have a tough job in making sure that all those requests are complying with the rules.
Yeah.
But that's making sure that all the information coming in is correct.
Yeah.
That still leaves you with the legacy of the information that is already there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what used to be the cleanup activities.
Yeah.
Which you did once every 2 years. You have a project that is never ending. As soon as it ended, you can start over again.
Yeah.
And again, in the project, you are still, okay, what do we think that the data quality should look like? Basically, what you should have started with. And you want to pick that rule that you've created.
Yeah.
Make sure that nothing bad is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step is what's already in, make sure that it's going to comply with that rule, which is probably a lot of legacy that you need to clean up.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a difficult job, but a different profile.
Yeah. Okay. So
and that's your advanced data management type of profile, more of the advanced data management skills that you require to do that. Again, conversation with your business. Okay, what is the impact of making such a change? And ensuring that your operation is continuing. It should not impede your operation as well.
Okay.
Which is a tough job sometimes.
And is that another step in the process then?
That's basically your third step.
That's your third step. Okay. So, and again, a company the size of yours, there must be so much legacy there.
Oh, definitely.
How do you even begin to?
Again, start with the first step.
Yeah.
And then one of the major steps that we made, which is relatively simple to do, is we said one of the rules was, hey, we are going to say suppliers that we did not purchase from in the past 2 years, let's just deactivate those.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you haven't done any business with them for 2 years, how relevant are they?
Yeah. How easy is that to do? Do you get resistance from?
Oh, definitely. There are the most resistance comes from the people who are scared that you are losing information.
Yeah.
But it's deactivating.
Okay.
So there was a lot of convincing to do.
Yeah.
But luckily for me in this situation was that the person on the other side, so procurement director,
yeah,
S at the time, by the way,
yeah,
they actually saw that this was a real benefit. And we made the analysis and we found that about 45% of our suppliers were not real suppliers anymore because we didn't have any business with them for more than 2 years.
Wow.
So that means that if you do that cleanup,
yeah,
you already lose about 50% of your burden.
Okay. So the business thought that they had more suppliers than they did then. Was that how the organization perceived themselves at the time? Is there a surprise? What I'm trying to say, the surprises come up for the business when you do
definitely,
this kind of work,
definitely. So is there so much data that is actually obsolete?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. We've actually got a quick question from Dheeraj, and please feel free to ask questions. We'll tackle them as we go. He's asked, does keeping more business rules help keep the data clean, or should you aim for fewer business rules to have like better data on board? So are there any guidance around having more rules for data quality or fewer rules?
Well, so what is good enough? So getting a rule on board does not mean that you have more or less data.
Yeah.
And you start simple. Start with one business rule that you are going to see. Okay, what is the impact of having that business rule?
Yeah.
And I think that the next step, if this one is correct, then the next step is monitoring it. If your data quality is as expected,
Yeah.
then you have an iterative process. You go back to the business and say, hey, is this data quality now good enough, or do we need to add more rules?
Okay.
And then you go into a iterative process of actually having that conversation with the business. Do we trust our data sufficiently? The numbers show that in your dashboard that the data is good enough because it complies with all the rules that you've set out.
Yeah.
Or do we need to add more rules because something is missing?
Yeah.
So it's not about the amount of business rules that you need.
Yeah.
It's having that conversation with the business to say, is this good enough quality?
Okay. And is that step 4 then, or is that just an
So we are going in a conversation type of way. But so this is the 4th step. Actually keep monitoring, because you have business rules. You can also now see how compliant are you with those rules.
Yeah. Okay. And what happens if the business rules aren't working, or the rules you've set out in step 1 say that they're not adding value, or they're not.
If they're not adding value, then remove them. But that's if there's no value add to anything that you do, stop doing it.
Yeah.
And that also goes for data quality rules.
Yeah. Do you think that happens at the moment in organizations? Do you think they are constantly?
Well, looking at our own organization, we are just starting to define those rules.
Yeah.
And I think that the journey is up the hill now,
Yeah.
instead of going down the hill if we have too many rules.
Yeah. Okay. So that's some journey. The 4 steps. I think the legacy data must be really challenging and a big step in that, and a huge part of it, as well as while creating the new data.
And also, and that's why I think that conversation with your business partner is the most important one, because we're talking about legacy data.
Yeah.
But actually, what we are talking about is legacy in the way of working to create that data, the legacy rules that individuals thought about.
Yeah.
And that's across the organization. And having that conversation to come to a harmonized approach, that's the challenge. If you know what the harmonized approach is and you agree, then actually, of course it's a challenge, but that's less of a challenge than finding the definition for harmonization, because then it's just manipulating, modifying the data to start complying with the rules. That's a lot of work. But once you agree, you have a lot on the horizon.
Okay. And something that's a big challenge in the data industry generally at the moment is like demonstrating value add of the work that you're doing. And I think because obviously data projects take time, they take resources, they cost the business a lot of money typically. How do you demonstrate value to the business while you're going throughout this whole process?
That's a very interesting one, because that is if you are staying in the role of a service provider, which traditional way of doing global master data management or data in general is being perceived, then the business functions are doing projects that require data, but you're not part of that project. So once that's becoming successful, it's the project that was successful, not the elements that facilitate the project.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion is that we have to move away from being a service provider, but actually being part of that project. Okay, for your project, what is the data quality that you expect?
Yeah.
Do we need to be 100% correct to be able to do this?
Yeah.
Is 80% correct? What does 80% look like for you? So become part of the project, being the partner from being the data partner in your projects. And if you become part of the project, then you probably will also be recognized better.
Yeah. And do you find there's an appetite for that? Like, do the people running the projects want the data teams to be part?
Data is in many projects always has been a key aspect.
Yeah.
But it was not recognized as such.
Yeah.
And now what you see also, because projects are more data driven, valuable insights, all those keywords that you hear more and more, there's a lot of people now starting to recognize the importance of a good data foundation.
Yeah. Okay. So, and previously the way the model worked is there would be a project, they would have data requirements on those projects, and then they would just
if yes,
data requirements.
It starts with, do you have the data? Yes,
Yeah.
They give it to me and we'll start running.
Yeah. Okay. And even if that was done in a great way, it wouldn't always be recognized as an actual part of the project.
Or it is operational, and then issues with data qualities are recognized. I see that you have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
here.
We've got a couple of questions coming in, so let's tackle some of them. First one is from Carmen. As part of data governance, you mentioned seeking alignment and agreement on terms of measurements in companies with global exposure. How can this be achieved at a more local scale? So, for example, between business units?
Well, that's an interesting perspective. That really depends on how you want to organize your data and data harmonization. If you want to, for instance, benchmark on a global scale, so benchmark between business units, you obviously need to have the same measurements, same KPIs. You need to have the same data quality. Otherwise, you cannot benchmark at all.
Yeah.
If you are fine as an organization to say, okay, within your business unit, you can do that, and that also has to be a decision on global level. But if it's fine to have your own definitions on local level, which is a decision, it's not a right or wrong there.
Yeah.
But if that's allowed, then you can do it on business unit level, of course.
Yeah.
However, the downside is probably it is easier to do that because you've got less, let's say, competitors to get to a harmonized organization. But difficulty is you cannot do the global benchmarking anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
I hope that answers that question.
Yeah.
By the way, we had two good questions.
Yeah. Well, we've got hopefully a third here from Ugo, who's asked, how can we leverage AI to enhance data governance processes, specifically areas such as data quality management?
Yeah. Well.
He says, while we've been discussing structuring data governance for AI, I believe AI itself could be a significant asset in optimizing data management. It's a really good point.
Yeah. So that also depends on the maturity level of your data quality rules.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. Well, we are still at the stage that we can already think as humans about some data quality rules that we want to set out.
Yeah.
But if you come to a state where you have sufficient data quality, and your next iteration would be, okay, business, dear business, what's your next rule that you want to implement? And they say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then, okay, let's see if AI is finding patterns.
Yeah.
So pattern recognition, it's a very interesting one. If you're talking about, for instance, a phone number.
Yeah.
We want, as human beings, say, okay, we need to have a country code. For data quality, we do need to have a country code.
Yeah.
By the way, that's also a choice. If you are in a country, it's just a national organization, not international, then do you really need that rule? That's a decision that you want to have with your business. If you have a country code and the number of digits that you expect in a phone number, so for us it's country code plus 9 digits, is that sufficient? Well, for me as a human being, yes.
Yeah.
But if I run it through an AI, potentially it could come up with, hey, I see that this address of your customer is here, or supplier or anyone. I see other customers also there, and they have the same area code. Is this a business rule?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, the way I misinterpreted that question, I think, because I was thinking of like data quality automations and doing.
That's also a possibility. But for instance, I think that especially with generative AI, there's already a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
So if there is an address, you can look at the AI and say, hey, does this address exist?
Yeah.
If not, what is the most obvious address that should have been there, for instance?
Okay.
Of course it can help.
And do you think AI could write the rules themselves? Like if we
that's how do you trust your AI?
Yeah.
Is there still a man in the middle? I think yes, especially if you're talking about data rules.
Yeah.
How many data rules do you want to generate on an annual basis for a certain data set? If it's just one, then it's that conversation again with the business. Hey, our AI found this pattern.
Yeah.
Do you think that this pattern is indeed correct? And do you want us to apply that?
Okay. Interesting.
That's how I think about.
And we've got another question from Timothy. As AI increasingly rely on high quality structured data, how do you envision data governance and master data management evolving to ensure not only data accuracy, but also ethical data usage and compliance? This is going to be a big question.
So I read something about the AI Act, the EU AI Act. That's Article 10 requires us to have proper master data management in place.
Is that actually embedded as part of the Act? It references MDM specifically. Okay, that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. Do you speak to executives about the AI Act out of interest as part of your job, or?
Well, we are in a business. We are making animal food.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at where the risks are, the high risk in the AI Act.
Yeah.
It is talking about human beings.
Okay. Yeah.
Our customers are not even private consumers.
Yeah.
So we are not at a high risk organization.
Yeah.
Of course, we have our ethics and compliance committees, and that are already addressing and monitoring where we need to go.
Yeah.
But for us as an organization, it's not yet a pressing issue.
Okay.
However, coming back to that question.
Yeah.
It is more about it's not about master data management, because that's more of the content part.
Yeah.
What you have to think about is your data set. One, does that actually contain information that is free of biases? Or at least, if there's bias, is that a bias that you want to have or not?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that you per se have to be bias free. One example is, for instance, which has been a huge discussion. University.
Yeah.
They make a selection if their students are allowed to join. If you make that decision based on an algorithm, one, it's already making decisions on person, so it would probably be in the AI Act, it would not be allowed. However, taking that from a perspective, there was a person of age also wanted to apply. Now, from a perspective of everybody is equal, then you would say you cannot have age as a factor in your AI, in your data set that you're going to use. But is it? If a university has limited places, and that's a decision again from a business perspective, do you want a person of age to be able to apply? It's not AI itself, it's just, okay, do you want to have that bias in your data set, yes or no? And that's an ethical question. And that's more about the design of your AI and the output that your AI is generating. Should you use it or not? And that's not per se the technology. It's because AI is probably correct, taking away the risk of hallucination. But if it is correct, that does not mean that you have to use it. And that's the ethical discussion that you need to have. And it's not a technical question. It is, what do you want? The example of the autonomous car. Either you drive, an accident is going to happen, or it is with a mother with a baby in her hands, or it's an elderly person. Well, and that's more of an ethical dilemma, and that is also culturally based. If you do that in a Western country, you're likely to say, the older person, she has a nice life, so give the chance to the new ones. Other parts of the world, they say, but that old person has got a lot of knowledge that you do not want to lose. Well, the baby has to go. But it is not a technology question. It is an ethical question that you have to ask yourself.
I think there's going to be a lot of big ethical debates coming up as AI matures. I think there was a second part of this question that was also interesting. So we were actually speaking about this earlier. How do organizations balance the need for data democratization in AI initiatives with the governance controls?
We're going slightly off topic here, but now, of course, there are companies struggling with how to understand AI and what to do with it, and mostly the ethical question. And I think there are still companies out there, I'm not sure if I'm right, but they still want to understand what the AI is doing. So understand the algorithms that are generating and understand what it is actually doing. I don't think that is very sustainable. Maybe for now, but if the AI algorithms are maturing more and more, getting more variables in, it's impossible for the human mind to understand what that algorithm is actually doing. So I think that we are left with input and output. So what we, as more from the data perspective, we need to ensure that the data sets that are being provided to that AI are bias-free, or at least bias managed, what is allowed and what is not allowed. And then make sure that the data is trustworthy. PII-free, or at least managed. So that's that Article 10. So the input needs to be properly managed. So that's the important part. Then it goes into that black box AI, and something comes out. And what I think is, one, is this what we expect to see? If not expected, can we actually justify why it's there? And say, okay, we didn't expect that, but yes, it is correct. We can understand that it's correct. And if that's the case, then, okay, we now have this information, but is it ethical sound to make use of that information?
And that loops us back nicely to the kind of original question, what you were talking about why data governance and data orchestration is the way you're structuring it, but why that's so important for AI, because if you don't have that all set up, that's you don't know where you stand from an ethical point of view at all with the algorithms, never mind.
So is there a business rule
And
or a data quality rule that prevents you from AI or biases to get into your information? So actually, PII information, is this field PII or not?
Yeah. Okay.
Some are very straightforward, yes or no, but some are in the gray area. Then you have that conversation with your business functions, potentially your ethics and compliance person, privacy officer involved, to get to that knowledge and understanding really what your data is and how you can maintain the data quality. What kind of rules do you have to have in place?
Yeah. And if someone listening wanted to start this more harmonized approach to MDM and data governance, what would be their starting point, and where would they start with?
Well, first of all, and that's any governance that I would advise to start with, ownership.
Yeah.
Who is your partner in the conversation? And that needs to be someone with mandate, sufficient seniority in your organization. That's the absolute first thing that I think that you should start with.
Yeah.
And then start the conversation. Okay, and what does good quality look like? What does this
mean? Yeah. And I think the thing I'd maybe think as well is that you need to be able to show how it would value and benefit the organization initially, right? Once the ownership was there, that person would have to have clear goals and objectives about how they're adding value.
So if you're talking about data that is never going to be used, then don't do it.
Yeah.
That's so. Look at what the management agenda is. Starting with the business strategy, digital strategy, and then your data strategy. What are your focus areas?
Great. Okay. Brilliant. Well, I think that's everything. So thank you everyone for listening. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, Patrick. I feel like we could have spoke about much more then.
There's much more.
Yeah. It's there's so many connected topics to data governance and management. I guess it's kind of at the heart of all types of data projects, really. So yeah, it's been really interesting talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for listening. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.